Do you want to say hello, Mark, or do you already do
Yeah,
that?
it looks like we've got a lot of people have joined us, and people have stopped joining us. So we may have a few stragglers coming in here and there. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Thirsty for Thursday. This is our first try at a remote broadcast, a remote stream. Sorry for all the issues we had. Don't know why the links were not working, but we're looks like we're good to go right now. Uh, I'm Mark Tetzel. I'm actually in Texas right now. And you see Mike Seibert on the screen right now. He's in Frederick, Maryland, at the fairgrounds. We're going to do some vehicle inspections here to start off with. Uh, but like I said, please pardon any hiccups we might have because this is our first try at actually doing remote live streaming of a training event, and we'll see how this goes. So, Mike, you want to start us off?
Yes, thanks, Mark. My name is Mike Seibert. Normally you get another Mike Caldwell. I want to thank him for his sponsorship of this series. It's something we started a year or so ago at HPTC and thought it'd be great to share with this broader service, and Mike endorsed that idea. So thanks, Mike. I'm the acting division manager for training here at HPTC, and we thought of this would be a good topic to share service-wide with the beginning of the operation season for folks. And we're going to basically make a YouTube video, if you will, of our inspection process for vehicles. We started a inspection checklist process. We have, I don't know, about 80 vehicles in our fleet all across the country. We have a lot of different drivers. Vehicles sometimes sit for 6 months before they're used. I know when I was in the park, we had a whole series of vehicles that were used seasonally, and we thought this would be a good time of year to refresh people on the process of looking over a vehicle safely. And all of the changes in personnel that have been going on, you may be asked to operate a vehicle that you've never operated before. So we're about to have a live version of how to do vehicle and trailer inspections in this case with our lead wage grade training program manager, Dave Durow. He's had a lot of vehicle experience. He's a heavy equipment operator. Came in here and told us that we needed to clean up our act with our trailers when he started here, and has a lot of good tips to share with you, as well as walking you through and bringing to life our vehicle inspection that we've used here at HPTC. We'll have someone monitoring the chat. So if you have questions during the inspection review, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer them in the chat or have Dave answer them live at the end if we can't answer them in the chat. So sit back, relax. Thank you for your patience. What we're doing today will be recorded and available. So if you want it as a refresher or share with someone, you can do that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave and take us away. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
I'm David Durra. I am the service-wide wage grade training manager. Yeah, you need to turn your speaker off. So today what we're doing is vehicle safety and routine inspections. This is a generic type inspection because we're using a newer Ford F-350, and I know a lot of you out there have different vehicles that you use. So what we do on this vehicle might not apply to every vehicle, but you'll get the idea. And I'll explain as we go how we do things. One thing I want to bring up before we get into the inspection itself, and this is one of the few parts you'll ever see me read. When I read policy, I read it word for word. I don't try to quote it because if I change a word, it could have a different meaning. So with the vehicle inspections, I've had a lot of people say, why do we do it? Why do we need to do it? Number one is safety. Number two is maintaining our fleet in an operable manner and safe manner that, small repairs can turn into high dollar repairs if they're ignored. But I want to read the part RM50B. If you go to RM50B, go to motor vehicle operations. Under that heading, go to requirements. I'm going read number 5 and number 6 out of RM50B requirements for motor vehicles. Number 5 is each operating unit will incorporate a system to inspect and maintain motor vehicles in a safe and operable manner. Again, the key word here, this falls under requirements, so these are required. Number 7, in RM50B, under requirements, supervisors, you need to listen up. Supervisors will be responsible for ensuring that prior to first-time operation of motor vehicles, employees will be given training on local conditions, local hazards, regulations, inspection requirements, fueling, and other factors that may affect the operation of motor vehicles in your area. The supervisor must document this training. That's word for word at RM50B. So there's no question of why we do inspections. They are required. I didn't need that one anymore. So what we're using today is a checklist that we use here at HPTC. I know some of the parks have your own checklist that you use, and that's fine. If you don't have a checklist and want one of these, we're going to put a link to these in the chat. You can download them and use these yourself. Or if you still use the logbooks, go ahead and look in the logbook. There is a checklist in those logbooks for vehicle operation. And the importance of these, I'll start off with a little short story here, is to protect you, especially if you're in a fleet. If you have an assigned vehicle, that's one thing. If you're changing vehicles every day, I went out on an incident a while back. They assigned me a vehicle. They drove me up to the motor pool, dropped me off in front of a truck and said, "There's your truck." I was like, okay. I hopped out, looked at the truck. It was pretty ragged. So I pulled out the logbook, did an inspection on the truck, and there was so much damage to it, I pulled out my phone and took pictures of all the damage on this truck. And I was like, okay, I'm just protecting myself here. And sure enough, like 4 or 5 days later, I pulled the truck up in front of the shop to do something. And one of the guys came out of the shop and said, "What did you hit with the truck? Your grill's busted." So I was like, "No, hold on a minute." I went and pulled out the logbook, showed him that I had inspected the truck. I had marked everything that was wrong with it. Then I pulled out my phone, showed him the date and the time that I had taken all those pictures. So I can't say they were looking for somebody to blame, but all of a sudden I got the blame for a truck that was damaged before I got into it. So cover yourself. Don't try to throw anybody under the bus, but that's what the inspections are for. That truck had so much damage, it actually was taken out by the next round. They had to have a lot of repairs done to it. And that's what the importance of inspections are. So we're going to start with this inspection sheet. We're going to make it pretty simple. The sheet starts off with the date, completed by, and then we have the mileage and the location. So get in the vehicle. Since we're going to do truck and trailer today, go ahead and start up the vehicle. Hook up your trailer first so we can check it all at once. Instead of doing 2 separate inspections, we're going to check all the lights. And there's another reason for this I'll get to as we get a little further back. As we move through the entire vehicle, there's going to be things that I'll point at that you can't really see, but we'll talk about. So let's come over and get under the hood of the truck. Well, let me back up a minute. I'm changing things here. I got ahead of myself. Thank you, sir. While the vehicle's running, and I'm going to say one thing here. One reason I want to have it running while it's sitting here, we're going to check the trailer in a few minutes. We're going to check breakaway brakes. If that trailer's been sitting for a while, that battery that controls those breakaway brakes is probably low on charge. So while we're doing this and the vehicle's still running, we're charging that battery to give it time to charge. So when we get back there, we can check those electric brakes when we get there. We don't want to have to wait till after we've done everything else, then give that battery time to charge so we can check just one thing. So we're serving two purposes here. But the list of everything that should be in the vehicle, flares, reflectors, are they there? Do they work? Are they outdated? Fire extinguisher, do you have one? Is it still good? We all know how to check fire extinguishers. The flashlight, all of your emergency equipment, first aid kit. We all carry first aid kits. But you know, some of the items, everybody has different things. Like Sawyers have different things in their first aid kits than just your standard first aid kit. It's according to what's in your kit. Take a look at it, because sometimes those items in that first aid kit have end dates. They need to be replaced. Always go through that first aid kit and make sure that it's still usable and you're not hauling around a bunch of stuff that won't do you any good if you get hurt. So all of these items need to be checked on a regular basis. Jumper cables, are they in good condition? Are they clean? Do you have an SF91? That's your GSA accident report form. Ice scraper, you might say, okay, summer's coming on, we don't need an ice scraper. But if you take it out, you'll forget to put it back in by next winter. It's best just to keep it in the vehicle. That way you always know where it's at. Basic toolbox in the vehicle. Is the jack in the, now here's the first one I'm gonna bring up, how to find these things. Some of these newer pickups, one thing that you'll search forever if you don't is finding that jack. That jack is hid so well up under that back seat, you'll never find it if you didn't know where it was at. How do you know where it's at? Open the glove box and get that owner's manual out. That owner's manual tells you everything there is to know about that vehicle. Most of us, probably the only time we've ever looked at that owner's manual is trying to figure out how to reset the clock when the time changes. But everything you need to know is in that book. Get it out, familiarize yourself with the vehicle and everything in the book. The book gives you a full maintenance schedule, how long you should go between maintenance, but going by maintenance schedule still does not replace daily inspections. Those are the important ones. The exterior of the vehicle inspection. And when I get to exterior, it's going to bring up another story. Y'all just bear with me here. This is something we do that we've all taken for granted. Every one of us that travel for work have taken it for granted. When we go to pick up a rental car, what do? We walk around, look at the exterior of the car. That's all we do. We're just looking to see if there's scratches, dents in the car so we don't get blamed for it when we bring it back. Last fall at one of my trainings, I had one student that was late arriving. He sent me a text and said, I'm going to be late. I had an accident. So by the time he got there, and he had taken pictures, which was good. When he got to the training, he showed me everything that had happened. The rental car actually had a loose wheel. The lug nuts worked tight. And the roads to get to where we were training were pretty curvy, so running the curves, he was putting a lot of stress on that wheel, and it wallowed out the holes, and eventually the front wheel ran off the car. But that opened my eyes to a lot, because I've taken rental cars for granted as much as I travel, but that taught me a lesson too. Just because it's a rental car and it just rolled out, don't think it's good to go. Check those too. And we'll get into how to check the lug nuts and all here in a few minutes. Wiper blades. This can be a geographic issue. Here on the East Coast, the humid environments we have here, we run the wipers enough that we know when we need wiper blades. But when we get out west, your area might only see rain twice a year. You turn it rains, you turn on the wipers and say, oops, I need to replace my wiper blades. You go through that little shower and forget about them again until the next time it rains 6 months later. By that time, the wet blades have fallen apart because they're dry rotted. They just come apart. That's why you need to check them when you do the checklist. Don't wait till it rains when you need them, because they won't be there. So some environments eat them up overnight. Seat belts. What are we looking for seat belts? When I do seat belts, I'm looking for any damage to a seat belt. When you see the belt, if you see any tears, cuts, frays, any damage to a seat belt, it needs to be replaced. They're real easy to check, and I'm not going to call names, but we don't deal with buckling the seat belt across the seat. That doesn't work. Seat belts are made to be worn. That is in policy too, in RM50B. All occupants of the vehicle will wear a seat belt. So they have to be in good working condition. Checking the windshield. That's apparent. As soon as you get in the vehicle, you'll notice if you've got cracks. Or here again, another geographical type situation. I never knew this until I moved out to a desert environment. I didn't know we had to replace glass because of sandblasting. But I lived in Vegas for 8 years out in the desert. We regularly had to replace windshields because of the sand damage to the glass. It would score it enough that it really affected your vision, that, and your headlights. It would completely ruin a set of headlights over a few months, the plastic covers. You can polish those out, but by running those fogged over headlight covers you see, you don't realize how much it's diminishing your light at night, because it becomes gradual, and it comes on gradual, and you don't realize how much light you're losing doing this. So take the time to check all of it. The other damage you look for on the windshield, have you operated it with a bad windshield wiper? A windshield wiper will break loose on one end. It's raining, you've got to do something, you let it run, and one end of the wiper arm is just scratching. You're damaging that windshield. Some of those can be polished out, some can't. But we don't need to be replacing windshields just because somebody forgot to replace the wiper blades. So again, we're right back to the inspection. Why do we do inspections? To keep things like that from happening. It's a small problem, but it can turn into a big problem. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. They either turn into a big problem or a big problem and a safety hazard at the same time. Safety is number one. Warning lights. You check all of your lights. The warning lights in the dash, and I might laugh when I say this one because I'm talking to a certain person. Yellow lights in your dash mean hazard. You need to check. It's just it's a warning. You have to check something. It's according to which one it is. If you don't know what that light means, get your owner's manual out. It'll tell you what every light in that dash means. If it's a red light, that means stop immediately. That is danger. You're in danger for some reason, or the vehicle itself is in danger to catastrophic damage. Shut it off. Find out what's wrong with the car or the truck, whether it needs oil, whatever it is. But a red light means shut it off. But everything in that dash, all of your warning lights have some reason for being there. And if you don't understand them, like I say, get that owner's manual out. It'll tell you what every one of them are for. Safety lights, headlights, brake lights, hazard lights, turn signals. If you're by yourself, take a little extra time and do every one of them. It still matters. It works best to get somebody out there with you that can check everything, but go through everything, the truck and the trailer, to ensure that everything's working. Don't just leave the lights on auto light. Hit your high beams and make sure all your high beams work, your low beams. If you have fog lights, check your fog lights. Because I didn't know this till here lately. If your vehicle is equipped in some states, if your vehicle is equipped with fog lights, they better work. because they will not pass inspection. And I never knew that. I thought fog lights were kind of an auxiliary light that didn't really matter, but in certain states it can. And that's where a lot of this gets tricky. A lot of states have different rules and regulations. Make sure you stay up on the rules and regulations for the state you live in. Backup lights, yes, they're important too. And if you don't know what backup lights are, they're the white lights embedded into your tail lights that when you put the vehicle in reverse, it turns on the white light to warn everybody that you're in reverse. If the vehicle is equipped with a backup alarm, make sure that backup alarm works. Excuse me. And speaking of backup alarms, I got to hit that one a little bit further. I've had a lot of people call me here lately, and don't laugh at my sound effects, but I've got to do it anyway. Backup alarms, we're all used to beep, 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 beep. There's a new one out there. It sounds like escaping air. That is an OSHA approved backup alarm. People didn't understand what it was, but we're starting to determine that that constant beep with 20 machines running on the same site was posing a hearing hazard to a lot of people. But this digital sound that we're using is not causing the same problems. So a lot of the new equipment is coming with the digital type backup alarm. And like I said, it's loud, but it's not the same irritating loud that beep is. So when you hear it, understand that it is a backup alarm. Look behind you and see who's backing up. Because that apparently when they put when OSHA approved it, they approved it, but forgot to tell everybody. But it's there. It is an approved backup alarm. And it did show up on a few pieces of new equipment that the Park Service bought. And that's where I was brought in that, can we use these? Are these legal? Yes, it's legal. It's not something we're used to, but hopefully we'll get used to. So the horn, does the horn work? How many people operate a vehicle without a backup alarm, have a habit of hitting your horn before you back up? A lot of us veterans have a problem, not a problem, it's a habit. Because that was the way we were trained. We didn't have backup alarms. Most of the time we had more equipment on the vehicle than we could see around, so we'd always hit the horn before we back up. Not a bad habit. It lets everybody know you're getting ready to back up. But on that same sense, if you can't see behind you, if your mirrors are blocked, get a spotter. Don't try to do it by yourself. Get a spotter to help you back out of the area you're in to clear everything. And that comes with the mirrors. This truck has extendable mirrors. That trailer is only 7 feet wide. Some of our bigger trailers are 8.5 feet wide. Does your truck have extendable mirrors? Can you see around that trailer? If you don't have extendable mirrors, you can actually buy mirror extensions that will attach to the factory mirrors to get it out to where you can see. But we're okay on this one. This one has extendable mirrors. My personal truck, I had to buy the extensions for mine because my big trailer is 8.5 feet wide. And the day I bought it on the way home, I realized I couldn't see around that trailer. My mirrors were too close. So I had to buy mirror extensions for it. Okay, all this time I've been talking, the engine's been running. So now we can turn it off. Everything's heated up, everything's operating temperature. So we're going to get under the hood now. So let's come over and take a look at what we're looking at under the hood. When we get under the hood, we're looking at all the different areas. On this side of the truck, we're looking mainly at the battery. And this is a relatively new truck, but if you look, there's already corrosion starting around the bracket on that side. The top of that battery needs to remain clean. Build up on top of a battery, whether it be dirt, dust, whatever it is, will draw power out of that battery and reduce the life expectancy of the battery. Keep a battery clean, keep your post clean. If you don't have to do it, if you have a maintenance person that takes care of your vehicles, bring it to their attention, have them clean the battery for you, because it will extend the lifetime if you keep it clean. But other areas of the truck that we're going to be looking at. Give us a minute. We got to move our stools. So on this side of the engine bay, we're going to be pointing out some things. But again, like I said, this is generic. This is a Ford F-350. And different manufacturers could be different, but we're just hitting the highlights here to show you where everything is. On this truck, we have a coolant tank. Back here is your brake reservoir for brake fluid. We have your washer fluid here, power steering fluid, and then up under the shroud is where your fan is. There's a belt back there. That belt needs to be inspected as well, but you can hardly see it with everything that's packed into the engine bays nowadays. So I just happen to have one that we can talk about. All modern vehicles have a serpentine belt. That's the serpentine belt. They're usually very long. And what we're looking for, you can see some slight damage starting here where it's starting to fray. We're looking for frayed edges. If you look on the inside, the ribs, you're looking for cracks, splits, and you'll actually see sections of these ribs pop off. And that means it's coming apart. All rubber components of this vehicle, belts, hoses, tires, everything made out of rubber does not last forever. Rubber loses structural integrity as it ages. The first way to notice it is cracks. You're looking for dry rot, we call it, in the rubber, and pieces chipping off and fraying. But let's get to tires. How do we know where we're at with tires? Tires can be new. They can look new and not be new. We've got up on the screen right now, how do you age a tire? You look at your tire, you go to that DOT number on that tire. The only part you're concerned about is the last 4 digits on that DOT number. The last 4 digits, the first 2 digits are the week of the year. So that number will be anywhere from 1 to 52. The second 2 digits, and this started in the year 2000, the second 2 digits are the year. So if it says 0116, that tire was made the first week of 2016. And that's how to date a tire. Tire manufacturer, we used to pull tires out of service at 6 years by the date. But with technology improving, the quality of the tires improving, a lot of manufacturers have extended that date out to 10 years. But where we get in trouble with a lot of these is you'll have a tire that looks perfectly fine. Tread is good, but if you get a close-up view of it, you'll start seeing those cracks and everything that are there that just shouldn't be there. It's dry rotted, it's old, and to prove a point, one day I sprayed one with some soapy water just to prove what those cracks were doing. They were tubeless tires, and you could actually see air seeping through the sidewalls of the tire. That's how dry rotted these tires were. But most of our vehicles, we keep them up better than that. Where we find this problem is boat trailers. That's the number one. We rarely ever use our boat trailers. When we do use them, we just go down and pull the boat out of the water, usually tow it a few miles, and that's it. They sit. They are rarely ever used. it's those type of trailers, some small utility trailers, we use those on a regular basis. Heavy equipment trailers that we don't use quite as much, they'll be the same problem. But don't throw them away just because they're over 6 years or getting close to 10 years. Go on the manufacturer's website. You can put in those DOT numbers and find out what the life of the tire is. I don't tell everybody to go by what I say, go by what the manufacturers say. They're the ones that guarantee their tires. When you buy tires, a lot of people were freaking out when all this first came out, where we taught people how to age the tire and get the manufacturer date. When they went to buy new tires for their personal car, they were checking that date and saying, well, these tires are 3 years old. They've been sitting in a warehouse somewhere for the 3 years. So the 3-year-old tires, bring that to the tire shop's attention. Tell them you want your tire warranty to start on that date that you bought the tires instead of the date that the tires were made. They will do it. Don't. If you date it back to when the tires were made, you just lost 3 years of your tire warranty. So keep it in mind when you're buying new tires of actually how long those tires, and some of the oddball size tires, it's not uncommon to go to buy tires and they'll bring out a set of tires that's 4 to 5 years old. They've been sitting in the warehouse that long. But if they've been kept in the right environment, they can still be good tires. The date's just running out on them. It's just something to keep in mind. But when we're looking at the tires, look on the inside and outside. That DOT number that we showed you in the photo is on both sides of the tire. But those last 4 digits, I found a lot of tires, those last 4 digits are only on one side of the tire. You might have to look on the inside of the tire too to find that number. But while we're looking, look on the inside of the tire, the outside of the tire. You're looking for uneven wear, tread wear. We all know how to check tread wear. Easy way, if you don't have a tire gauge, a penny turned upside down. When you put it into the tire tread, if you can see the top of Lincoln's head, those tires need replacing. And if you've never seen what I'm talking about, just Google it. You get a real good picture of what I'm talking about. Use a penny to check any tire tread. That's 3/32 of an inch from Lincoln's head to the edge of that penny. If you're down that low, yeah, those tires need replacement. So that's just an easy way to check. But you're also looking for bulges. Any uneven wear, bubbles. If you find a bubble, that's a big problem. That tire's getting ready to blow. And more often than not, for some strange reason, I find them more on the inside of tires than I do on the outside. Now, I've never understood that one, because usually if we hit a curb or something, that's with the outside of the tire. If you've got any damage whatsoever in a sidewall, most tire shops will not fix that tire, because the sidewall is the most dangerous area because you can't repair them. I've seen people try to put patches on the inside. Don't waste your time, because all you're doing now is playing with your own safety, and everybody else that drives that, rides in that vehicle, you're playing with their safety. We can't do that. We all try to save money sometimes, but when it comes to safety, spend the money, get the right items. Don't try to fix something just to save a few dollars. Fix it right. So we'll keep moving back through the vehicle. Like I said, the mirrors, everything we need to check. Check all the glass in the mirrors. We've already talked about the inside. We talked about the seat belts. We talked about the warning lights. But when you get in the vehicle, make sure that you're comfortable. Make sure you got that seat set. Me, I've got short legs. I have to pull the seat way up. Everybody complains that has to drive one behind me is getting in, and I've got the seat all the way up. But make sure you got it to where you're comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, you're going to be fighting the seat. You're fighting yourself. You're not paying attention. And paying attention to everything is the number one in safety on operating the vehicle. We have more accidents because of distracted driving, and that's not only vehicles. That happens with equipment. We've had it happen with lawnmowers. People darting out into traffic, they weren't paying attention. We had a guy killed locally last week up on 81, a 23-year-old construction worker, a FedEx double trailer. The construction worker was in the far right lane picking up cones. The FedEx truck was in the far left lane. He just started drifting over. And he killed that 23-year-old construction worker. That was distracted driving. You don't want to end up like that. You don't want that on your conscience, that you did something like that just because you couldn't wait 5 more miles to check a text. Pay attention to the road. Keep your mind where it needs to be. Keep that phone away from you. We can use phones in handheld, but texting is not allowed at all until you're stopped. That's fine then. You can use your phone in handheld, but you cannot text for any reason while you're driving in a government vehicle, and you shouldn't be doing it in your personal vehicle. That is distracted driving. Okay, coming on back. Now we're going to get into an area that causes a lot of problems. Well, let's back up a minute. Come on, camera person. Data plates. You want to show them the data plate? The data plate for most vehicles, some of the older trucks, you would find them on the door, but most all new vehicles, they're on the door post. What that data plate shows, the number one thing we're usually looking for is the GVWR. That's your gross vehicle weight rating. That's really important. So we already have that vehicle rating. The trailer has a data plate as well. When we hook to a trailer, what we have to do, because now that you're hooked to a trailer, you're a combination vehicle by DOT. GVWR from the trailer, the GVWR from the towing vehicle, add those two together. And if it comes up to 26,000 pounds or more, you need a CDL to tow that. Or you might read this data plate and it says, 8,000 pounds. You go to read the trailer data plate and it says 10,000 pounds. And you're thinking, okay, I'm good. Only 18,000 pounds. No, it's not. If that trailer data plate is 10,000 pounds or greater, no matter what the combination is, you have to have a CDL. We got into this a while back with several locations with trailers, that the trailers were rated at 10,000 pounds or more. We didn't have CDL operators to tow those trailers. But that's been real confusing for everybody trying to come up with understanding the DOT regulations when it comes to CDL requirements. And the easiest place you can find it now for people that don't understand the rule, it's in RM50B now. So it's right there, plain black and white. You can read it. Or if you don't believe that, I've got a screenshot of Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's website, their page that I normally send out to everybody, because you can't argue with it. It's there. You can't tow a trailer 10,000 pounds or greater GVWR without a CDL. We all understand. Okay, we'll keep moving. Okay, now you got to watch me because I got to step over. Now, We're going to talk about another overlooked area here. We got a picture up on the screen. That was an actual accident from several years ago that I worked. As you can tell, the trailer is still hooked to the towing vehicle. Everything was right. The person that was driving this truck did everything right. They didn't do anything wrong. But the next call I got was we had an accident with the trailers turned out on the interstate or the freeway with the trailer, and we lost it. The safety change called it. Luckily, they had just pulled out, weren't going maybe 10, 15 miles an hour when it broke. But this is something we all neglect. If we're only using one drawbar in our receiver and we never take it out, we're setting up to fail. You take those bars out, you check them. The one in the photo was in a coastal location that had a lot of salt activity from location along. That they were constantly in it, and that one was on an SUV. The only thing they would tow with it was that small utility trailer, so it had a 2-inch ball, and they never changed it because that was all they towed with it. So they never took that drawbar out. So you see where it got them. It's where the pin went through to hold the bar into the receiver. It just rusted completely in two. Now, if that had been a larger trailer, loaded heavy weight, could have been a real problem for everybody. But that is something we need to start checking on all of them, because it's not only coastal areas, it's when we get into the snow areas, if there's a lot of salt on the roadways, the other side of that receiver is a perfect place for that salt to accumulate in that frame. And over time, it will its way through, and we'll end up with a case like was in the photo there. And we don't need to see that happen. But that one, I'm not saying I'm glad anybody had an accident, but when that happened and they sent me that picture, I was like, I'm going to use this from now on in training. I want everybody to see those ones because I had never seen it and thought about it. Me personally, I do everything overkill. I won't run a tube type drawbar. I run a solid steel 2-inch receiver. My drawbar has, the ones I use on my personal vehicles, has a 17,500 pound weight rating. Because I tow a very expensive race car with it, and I want to make sure I don't lose it. So, but other than that, let's get back to this. All right. In this box is the battery that I was talking about we needed to charge for the breakaway system for the brakes. And this is going to serve two purposes, what we're doing here. Most people don't know whether their trailer brakes are working or not. It's an electric brake. Basically, all it is a magnet, electromagnet. Sometimes it might not work when you first hook to the trailer, but being a magnet, it has to have a clean surface to attract to. And all brake parts will rust overnight. You might have a surface rust on the rotor itself or the drum. You might have to drive it a mile or so to let that surface rust break free, and the brakes will work fine. But you'll get a good indication here of whether the brakes work or not. So how do we check them? We know it's charged, but we've had it running all this time. To check your breakaway brakes, you just pop it out. That activates the magnet. That sets the brakes on the trailer. So how do we test now? We go get in the vehicle, put it in gear, try to pull up. It should drag the tires. Those brakes should be locked up. That's the whole purpose of a breakaway. If the tires are not locking up at all, if you're getting no resistance, you probably don't have brakes when you're using the trailer either. So you need to get the trailer into the shop and get the brakes taken care of. They are there for a reason. So Well, I've got this out. I left it the way it is because I wanted to highlight it. When you connect the trailer, this breakaway cable cannot be hooked to the chain the way it is here. This is an illegal connection. Breakaway cable has to be connected independently from the safety chains to the vehicle. And if you don't have a hook to hook it with, see if I can get this one off. If you don't have a hook to hook it with, an easy way to do it, run it through your tie point. Loop it through itself. Plug it back into the trailer. Well, get it right. And we're good to go. That is a totally separate connection. You're connected independent from your safety chains. Get a lot of questions about the safety chains. Do we cross chains or not? Yes, we do. When we cross the safety chains, what we've done is created a sling. And if that ball disconnects, the sling, if it's close enough and tight enough, will catch that tongue of that trailer to keep it from digging into the asphalt or the dirt road, wherever you're at. We do that for a reason. It's a safety purpose. But then we get into the hitch sizes. How do we know? Most of the couplers, such as this one, is stamped in the coupler that it requires a 2 5/16 towing ball. So we know most of the towing balls are stamped right on top what size they are. So we have a good indicator here. We know we need a 2 5/16 ball. The ball should be stamped. If we have people that are having a problem with this, some of what I say is not regulation, but I talk a lot about best practices. Let's start doing best practice ideas. If we're having a problem with this, if we have people that don't understand, 2 5/16 couplers on your trailer, start painting them red. Have a receiver that you never change the balls in. It's always a 2 5/16. Paint it red. And then when these inexperienced drivers go to hook up, it's simple as color matching. Paint your 2-inch receivers yellow. I don't care what color you paint, but when you've got them matched that way, there's no more excuse of I thought I had the right one. All we're doing now is color matching, and you know you're right every time. So no more issues. But over time, even these couplers will wear. And so a lot of our older trailers, if you reach up in and check, the locking dog in there that locks to the ball, they were adjustable. And they would get out of adjustment over time. And it was real loose fit. Most new trailers, you don't see that anymore, but all of the older trailers used to have it. You could adjust that lock that it would fit the ball tighter to stop that loose motion. But we don't have it anymore. So if you're fully connected and still are worried about, am I right or am I wrong? Jack the trailer back up. Put some pressure back on that jack while it's all connected. If it pops off, yeah, you were wrong. But if it starts lifting the truck, you're good to go. It's locked in place. I mean, the hand jacks such as this, they're okay. Some of our bigger enclosed trailers have electric jacks on them. They're real easy to check. You just run your electric jack back up, put pressure on the truck. If it starts lifting the truck, you know you're locked in place good. And taking a little extra time to check these things is well worth it. If you've ever lost a trailer, ever seen a trailer lost, throughout interior, we had a lot of trailer accidents. One of the biggest reasons was mismatched ball size. We lost several pieces of very expensive heavy equipment. Marshmasters especially. I don't know what the reason with them was, but we lost several Marshmasters. A lot of equipment got lost pulling tag trailers that was mismatched. But when you're on a public highway, moving something for the National Park Service, you're representing the Park Service. You don't need to go out there and draw attention to you that I just had a bad accident because I hooked the trailer wrong, or I didn't tie down the trailer right. I didn't tie down my load right. We, as public service, need to set the example for everybody else. We go out and do it right. So if you don't know how to do it, ask. All of you more experienced employees, we going through some times right now, we're losing a lot of knowledge. I'll put it that way. A lot of our older employees are leaving. The knowledge that they're walking out the door with is irreplaceable. If you need training, ask for it. If you can't find the training, contact us. We'll help you find the training you need if we don't have it ourselves. But training is going to be very important for the future because we're bringing in a lot of people that are inexperienced. And we don't need to be just taking everybody out and letting them go. So pulling the trailers, the training on the vehicles. If you have somebody that needs training and you don't know how to do it, get in touch with us. I've already had one park call me within the last couple of months. They had nothing but interns for the park, had no experienced employees left. All of their trucks were like this, 4-door, 3/4 ton and 1 ton trucks. They didn't feel comfortable with any of these people driving the trucks. So I found a experienced employee that was willing to go down to this other park and spend a day with them, training them on how to drive those trucks. They just don't, a lot of people just don't get the difference in the turning radius from the small car that they drove to work this morning to this. It's a huge difference. And it's something, it takes practice, especially backing. If you can't back a trailer, you need to get some practice. You know, if I do have a trailer training program, if you want it, I'll send it to you. I'll hook you up with a trainer. We can get you trained on backing. It's not that big of a deal. It just takes practice. It's like everything. But heavy equipment, you get good at it by sitting in the seat. It's seat time. You have to do it. And the problem we get into is most people are intimidated. You drive a little Honda to work and then you step into this, pulling this, and you're intimidated by the size of the vehicle. You don't need to be, because if you're starting off scared, it's going to end up being a problem. Ask for help, ask for training when you need it. We'll be happy to help you get it. So safety is number one. We don't want anybody getting hurt. But I think we've pretty well covered everything here. The trailer is going to be the same thing. Well, I did forget one thing. Let me step back over here. Don't me falling over this trailer. Okay. I brought it up sooner. Checking lug nuts. How do you determine? And this goes for equipment, lawnmowers, cars. It doesn't matter. Most cars have lug. You can't see the lug nuts, but all the trailers you can. Heavy equipment you can. What we're looking for is the contact surface between the lug nut and the rim itself. If that rim, those lug nuts are loose, you'll see a shiny ring around it if you're towing the trailer right now. But if you park the trailer overnight and come back in the morning, you see a rust ring. Those lug nuts are loose. You need to tighten them. But that's the easiest indicator you can find without getting the lug wrench out. Now, back to the operator's manual. There's manuals that come with these new trailers. Most people don't know what torque specifications are, but all vehicles, all trailers, all have them. There's a torque specification for what the torque should be on these lug bolts. Look in your operator's manual, look at the manual that came with the trailer, and do the best. Well, not everybody has a torque wrench either. I can't say that. Just make sure they're tight. That's the big thing. You don't want to be losing tires going down the road. The trailer itself is a different animal than the car or the trailer, the truck. They're designed to go in a straight line. No side movement at all. It's front to back, straight line. But when you start backing this trailer, and that's why I said if you can't back, you're going to end up causing a problem. You're going to cause some damage. And every one of us that have ever driven a trailer have done it, whether you wanted to do it or not. Sometimes it's because you got into a tight spot. Somebody blocked you in. You had to jackknife that trailer. Either you did it on purpose, trying to get out of a tight spot, or you did it by accident because you're an inexperienced backer trying to get it in somewhere. But when you jackknife that trailer to the point, you can watch it out the window, out of your mirror. You can tell the axles are actually sliding sideways. You're dragging that axle back through the gravel or the asphalt, wherever you're at. You're putting that side load where it shouldn't be. These trailers, the suspension system on a trailer is non-adjustable. It's a permanent system. And when you keep jackknifing that trailer, you're either going to bend or break all those spring mounts that hold the suspension in place. How do you know that? If you start seeing uneven tire wear on a trailer, wearing bad to the outside or to the inside, it's usually the suspension parts are either bent or broken. The parts to fix the suspension are readily available. If you have a shop at your park that can do that type of work, get it in, replace all the suspension parts that need replacing. I'll use one for example. My former position, and this was a heavy equipment coordinator. He was good. He had CDL, everything. But he got blocked in that night at the hotel. He had to be on a map project the next morning. He jackknifed that trailer to get it out, was in a hurry to leave, got on the interstate. He was running interstate speed. I'm not sure how fast he was going, but he just happened to look in his right-hand mirror and saw smoke boiling out of around the axles. Well, when he jackknifed it, the spring hanger, he had broke. And once he got up to road speed, the motion on that axle, working back and forth, finished breaking that spring hanger. On the right side of the trailer, that side of the axle rolled back into the next axle, and the tires were rubbing against each other. So that here we are now, we got to call the tow truck, everything to get it in to get it fixed. If you jackknife one that bad, check it before you get on the road. Don't wait to have to call that tow truck and have to call your supervisor to say, I just spent $700 calling a big tow truck to come move this trailer for me. So just check them. You can tell if you've bent them or not. The other thing, when you're up under the trailer looking, make sure there's no rust. I won't throw anybody under the bus, but we checked one, and that we were actually doing the trailering training. And the trailer didn't have a data plate. So I was going to do an inspection on the trailer anyway, but while I was looking for the data plate that wasn't there, I was going to crawl up under the trailer and look for a tag on the axle to see what the weight rating on the axles were, so I could judge the GVWR for the trailer. as soon as I got under the trailer, I realized there was nothing left of the frame. The surface of the trailer looked serviceable. It was a decent looking trailer. If I hadn't have seen it, wouldn't have made me believe it. But you could put your finger through the frame. That's how bad this trailer was ate up. And a very responsible safety person came up with a log chain and tied it to a pole, wouldn't let anybody use it. And that one didn't go to surplus, it went straight to the junkyard. And that's what we need to do. But that trailer was being used on a regular basis. So that is the importance of checking these trailers to make sure that we're not causing a safety hazard. Because with the crews that run that, there would have been several people in the vehicle going to work, going out on jobs. That one could have been bad. They were hauling some pretty heavy material with the trailer. So I think we're about here to the end. Questions? There is on each tire. It tells you exactly how much air pressure to put in. And it tells you up front every time, cold. Your air pressure is cold. So we have a model coming in to show us. Data plate will tell you what the data plate will always show you the factory rating. But then again, what if somebody has changed the tires? How many pickups do we buy that we keep the factory tires on? Not many. Very few we leave the factory tires on, especially when we're out in really rough situations like out west in the desert. We go to heavy, stronger tires. And what we're looking for then is you'll have to locate it on the tire. But right here in these small lettering somewhere, and don't ask me to see it because I can't see that good, it tells you what your tire pressure should be. I mean, it's on both sides of the tires. You can't miss it. If you're old and blind like me, get somebody to go look for you. One of the younger employees to go look and make sure what it is. But that brings up a good point. Seasonal. You're going into winter every year, and all of a sudden you start seeing your tire pressure lights come on your dash. That's another good time. I mean, there used to be a joke we used to pick on everybody till you got to take that summer air out and put winter air in. That's not necessarily true. But as the seasons change, the pressure in your tires do too. And, some people say overinflating. I worry about underinflating. Underinflated tires are going to be a hazard to drive. They heat up. They will explode. So underinflation is going to get you more trouble than overinflated. But where you're going to have to watch that part of it is, and I've personally had this happen at a tire store. Well, it was a service shop. People get in the habit, they think all tires are the same. I noticed this guy letting the air out of my tires. And it's what you just asked about reading that data plate. He read the data plate, the factory tires for my trucks. I think the air pressure was 35 pounds. But I had gone to 10-ply tires because I lived in the desert. The tire pressure for those were actually 62 pounds. And he was telling me my tires were overinflated because the only thing he could think of was all tires are 35. So he was deflating my tires that was going to cause me a big problem. So again, it's come back and check behind people. Pressure gauges, they're everywhere. All you have to do is get that pressure gauge. You can check it. If you don't know how to check tire pressure, talk to your maintenance person or Google it. YouTube can teach you anything. And that is about as simple as they come. Go ahead. No. They're not designed for that. All tires are designated. When you go to buy tires, you buy trailer tires. Trailer tires are not made to grip. They're just a towable tire. And you can get different grades of trailer tires by what you want. So, but there is a difference. There's what we get into. You'll have trailer tires that says on the tire trailer. You get into car tires, which the number of the tire starts with a P. You get into truck tires, the size of the tire will start with LT. P in the number of the tires means passenger. All passenger cars have that P rating tire. Trucks, when you get into light trucks, that LT, that's what that stands for, is light truck. They're a heavier tire. Go ahead. Another question. Oh, yes, they can. The question was, can dry rotted tires blow out on the road? Dry rotted tires will explode in a heartbeat. I'll put it that way. And I'll show you an example. Motorhomes, they sit. And most of them have 22.5 tires. Well, a lot of our equipment trailers have 22.5. And a friend of mine decided, he was at the tire store, didn't realize they were taking all the 22.5s off the motorhome, which looked practically brand new. But because that motorhome just sat, they had dry rotted, they were aged. He was picking up those tires thinking he'd run them on his trailers. They didn't last 10 miles. I mean, on the empty trailer, they were okay, but as soon as he loaded some equipment and put some weight on those things, yes, they do explode. When they're dry rotted, they need to be replaced. More questions? Jump starting. What do you want to know? That could be a sticky question, whether you're talking to GSA or different agencies. Personally, yes, you can jumpstart a vehicle, and yes, we can jumpstart vehicles. The only thing here is, if you're going to jumpstart a vehicle, what's the number one thing you need? PPE. Get your PPE out first. If you've ever seen a battery explode, and most of the occurrences where we do have a battery explosion is while jump starting. And when I say PPE, if you want to get into the real battery PPE, it's an apron, it's eye protection, and a face shield. You don't go in just with the eye protection, because I've seen metal, liquid, everything get around that eye protection. Wear the eye protection, the face shield, and an apron if you want to protect your clothing and your skin. But wear all the PPE before you mess with that battery. Because battery explosions, how this works, especially if you're constantly having to jump that vehicle off. If you let a battery, a deep cycle battery is one thing, but a regular passenger car battery, if you keep letting that battery go to zero and bringing it back, zero, bring it back, you'll get to a point where that battery will switch polarities on you. All of a sudden you think you're hooking to positive and negative, you're actually backwards now. Because when it went down completely out of the cycle, when it came back up as a reverse polarity. And when you go to hook those jumper cables to it, there's a good chance it's going to blow up in your face. I've had one blow up in my face. Most all of us old farmers had junk equipment that we had to jump off every time we used. And I was jumping off a irrigation pump motor. And as soon as I touched it with the battery cables, it blew up in my face. And no, I didn't have any PPE on. I was in a hurry. I was young and stupid way back then. And it taught me a good lesson. I learned a lot that day. Because when you get that scared, wondering if I'm going to be able to see tomorrow, yeah, you remember it real quick. So when you do go to jump a vehicle, how do you hook the cables? Anybody want to answer? Huh? No, go ahead. Go ahead. We're having a discussion here. Yeah. What do you connect first? Yeah. Everybody agree with that? For those in the field that don't know, we have a studio audience here that I'm talking to. So, but yes, we can jump, but be careful with it. One of our sister agencies at one point had got so paranoid about jump starting vehicles, they had had so many explosions, they actually came up with a policy. You weren't allowed to jump start vehicles. You had to take the battery out of the vehicle, take it into an approved charging area, charge the battery, put it back in the vehicle to start it. But they've since taken that back out. Go ahead.
So, do you hook up the charging vehicle first or the stalled vehicle?
That can be a different, it's according to who you ask. I normally hook up to the dead vehicle first, and then I hook to the positive first on the charging vehicle, and then to a ground, a separate ground from the battery. There's always a ground somewhere other than battery on the engine block, wherever. Get that spark away from that battery because it is going to spark. If you've jump started, you'll see that spark every time. And you got that spark is what will cause that explosion. Keep that spark away from that battery. Jump starting. They even want to know how to hook up the cables, whether we hook to the dead vehicle first or the charging vehicle first. So that was the question. Sorry about that. I forgot. I was supposed to repeat the question. More questions?
Conditions where air temperature or radiation changes greatly during.
Check your owner's manual. Check the rating on the tire. It tells you a cold, how to check it cold, what your tire pressure should be. And when that cold reading on the side of a tire is you haven't driven the vehicle today. You check it first thing in the morning, the tires are cold. Because as you heat the tires, it's going to expand. It's going to change. That's why you always check your tires cold. But the pressure range on that tire, on the side of the tire, will give you your pressure range you can run. I don't know if that totally answered the question. Now, for everybody in the field, if you have questions that we don't get answered today, if you go home and think about it for a while, all of you have my contact information. Get in touch with me. Send me an email. I'll answer your questions. Or you can keep this chat, and I'll answer them through the chat afterwards. And that way everybody can see the same answer. But I don't mind answering questions for anybody. And that comes down to, training, anything. Like I said, from here on out, future-wise, training is going to be very important for all of us. Because we can't replace everything that we're losing. That was, with the number of people that are leaving the service right now, and most of them carried the knowledge that we all wish we had, that they, took for granted that they've been here so long, but we didn't have time to capture everything we needed to capture. So we're going to have a lot of inexperienced people working. Help those people. If you are one of the experienced people that's still out there, If your people need training, get in touch with us. If we don't provide the training, we'll get you in touch with somebody that can. But we don't need to be taking any chances with our people getting hurt. Nobody wants that on their conscience. Because I do tell one more story. How I ended up in the safety world is a farming accident when I was young, where I had a employee lost a leg. I knew what it did to him. But you as a supervisor or you as a business owner or wherever it be, you don't realize what kind of trauma it does to you. You don't want that on your conscience. So take care of your people. Get them trained. Make sure they're doing the job safely and be able to go home at the end of the day.